FOMO. Fear of missing out. Anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere.
FOMO, or fear of missing out. We started last week thinking about how this reality affects our lives. Our focus last week was on primarily technology, social media. However good it is, it can also move in and take over. Our focus can become so much here that we miss out what is right in front of us. And it can exacerbate the fear that we're missing out on something somewhere. We go to a different kind of FOMO today. Not sure quite what to call this. I guess I would call it relationship FOMO. It's something that I have noticed over the years here at Loma Linda. Been here in this community, not all of it here at this church, but in this community for many years. And I think while this may exist elsewhere, it certainly exists here. I saw many evidences of it over the years, long before FOMO became an acronym. How to describe this? Well, I might describe it this way. This kind of relationship FOMO is the fear of missing out on a potentially better or even perfect relationship in the future, to the degree that I cannot settle down into and enjoy and commit to this relationship. It's the fear that if I commit now, I may regret it later because somebody better may come along. I've seen many examples of this. I think of just one. I disguise a bit the story. Here in Loma Linda, young man, very talented, very gifted, sharp-looking, a student in one of the challenging programs of Loma Linda University. A lot on the ball, a lot going for him. Dating a young woman who was beautiful. They made a striking couple. Kind of couple that if they were to walk into the room, you'd notice. You'd think, wow, those two belong together. He came to see me on a number of occasions. We had times in my office where we talked and I listened to what he was wrestling with, what he was struggling with. I don't know if you've ever been through one of these kinds of things, but it's the kind of experience where you keep hearing what the person is saying, but you keep thinking, that's not really what's going on here. There's something more that's not being said. He didn't come a lot, but he came several times, and each time at the end I thought, I'm not sure we got to whatever it was that was bothering him. And then one day we did. One day he finally came out and said it as clearly and as bluntly as I think he could muster. I can't tell you his exact words, but they were something like this. You know, I love her. I mean, I do. I love her. But, you know, I'm just not sure that she's as pretty as I want my wife to be. I said, well, there it is. That's what we've done all of this other stuff to get to. All the other stuff of, well, her family is this, and well, you know, her personality is that, and well, things that to me seem very superficial. Finally, I thought, we've landed on it. This is the issue. While at that point in time, I would not have characterized it as FOMO, relationship FOMO, that is precisely what it was. And here's what's a bit frightening. He's far from the only one. Many, both male and female, find it very hard to settle down into and commit here out of the fear that someone better may come along down the road. How do you recognize it? Well, I don't know that there's a fail-safe way to recognize it, but you can get a feel for it. You will often see somebody who moves through one relationship after another, stays for a while, and then moves on. keeps looking as the months, as the years pass, never quite satisfied. Relationship FOMO, I call it. I suppose one of the most sinister parts of it is that if one is truly in the grip of that and doesn't come to terms with it, just standing at a wedding altar and saying, "I do," doesn't cure it. There can still be this inner antenna that is alert, that is looking, that is wondering. It can deeply destabilize a marriage. I have seen it happen. Now we have to ask why. What is it that drives that? What is it that keeps us from being able, when we have a good and a healthy and a solid relationship with someone that we love, what is it that keeps us from stepping across that line, making a commitment, and narrowing our options down to this one individual? What keeps that? I used to think that it was the issue of a fear of commitment that was the primary culprit. I mean, if you read those who talk about, research, write about such things, they will tell you that we as Americans are commitment phobic, that we have a very hard time committing to something. It can be something as simple as somebody from the church calling up and saying, "Hey, can you be part of the praise band 3 weeks from now?" You say, 3 weeks? Man, that's a lifetime away. I don't want to be doing it 3 weeks. I can't commit to that. It can be something as simple as that. Or it can be committing to a relationship. They say we're commitment phobic. If that's true, then I've got a pretty good idea why, because commitment is not easy. Commitment is hard. No matter in what arena you find it, commitment is challenging. Take the young woman who's a runner. She wants to be in shape. Maybe she's training for a marathon. Early morning, even before the sun rises, you find her. There she is, pounding the pavement. It's cold. The wind is blowing. The bed is warm. Anybody in their right mind is still under the covers. And there she is, pounding the pavement, mile after mile. Commitment. That's tough. Or you see the student poring over his books. "Hey, you want to go to a movie with us?" "Oh, man, I'd love to. I got to study." Family says, "Hey, come on, sit down and watch the basketball game with us." "I'd love to watch the game. I got to study." The day is beautiful outside. The friends are headed to the beach. "I got to study." It's not easy. Commitment. Or take the elderly couple. His body is being ravaged by a disease that is slowly stealing his life from him. And there she is, day after week after month, even into the years, still caring all the way up to the time when she finally closes his eyes in death. That's commitment. And that's hard. So when I think about relationship FOMO, I think maybe that's what keeps us from making that decision to step across the line with this person. Commitment's hard. I mean, I struggled with that. I've shared this with some of you, particularly if we've been in the classroom together. I struggled with commitment. I was in love with Anita, had no question that I loved her. Wanted to spend my life with her, enough that I asked her to marry me. It was exciting. We're planning the wedding, and then I'm thinking, this is life. This is like not a week, a month, a year, a decade. This is life. And I got cold feet. Had nothing to do with not loving her. I knew the gift she was in my life. But I one day said to her, "You think we could postpone it, just 6 months? I can kind of come to grips with this thing I'm wrestling with." You know what she said to me? "No." I said, what do you mean, no? She said, no, that's pretty clear, no. I said, but our life's a marriage. No, she said. She said, you don't have to marry me. That's totally up to you. But if you do, it'll be on April 26th. Man, that ticked me off. April 26th, but what about us? She said, if we postpone it 6 months from today, you'll be struggling with the very same thing. You're welcome to do that. I'm not going to do that. Some of the most powerful, wise words she ever spoke brought me face to face with that issue of commitment. So for a long time, I thought, that's what it is. It's the fear of making that kind of commitment that says, I'm going to be in there, I'm going to do it. Life will be hard at times, but by the grace of God, this is my choice. But in more recent years, I've kind of moved from that. Oh, that's no doubt still part of it. But I've moved to something else that I think is really what drives, as much as anything does, our relationship FOMO. I want to read you something. I'm going to read this to you. I thought about summarizing and quoting, but I thought, no, he words it too well for me to try to change it, and it's a bit lengthy. Michael Levin is a gentleman in L.A. who works in the advertising industry, marketing. He's dealing a lot with the beautiful people of the world and what he does as a business. In Psychology Today, some years ago, he wrote a piece about how the beautiful people affect him. I want you to listen to what Levin says and ask yourself the question, does this in any way speak either to me, to someone who is the one I love, or to someone we know? Here are Levin's words. Beauty is driving me nuts. And although I'm a successful red-blooded American male, divorced and available, it is beauty alone that is keeping me single and lonely. Listen to that statement. It is scant solace that science is on my side. I seem to have a confirmed case of the contrast effect. It doesn't make me any happier knowing it's afflicting lots of others too. As an author of books on marketing, I have long known about the contrast effect. It is a principle of perception whereby the differences between two things are exaggerated depending on the order in which those things are presented. If you lift a light object and then a heavy object, you will judge the second object heavier than if you had lifted it first or solo. That's the contrast effect. Psychologists Sarah Gutierrez and Douglas Kenrick, both of Arizona State University, demonstrated that the contrast effect operates powerfully in the sphere of person-to-person attraction as well. In a series of studies over the past 2 decades, they have shown that more than any of us might suspect, judgments of attractiveness of ourselves and others depend on the situation in which we find ourselves. In their very first set of studies, which have been expanded and refined over the years to determine the exact circumstances under which the findings apply and their effects on both men and women, Gutierrez and Kenrick asked male college dormitory residents to rate the photo of a potential blind date. The photos had been previously rated by other males to be of average attractiveness. If the men were watching an episode of Charlie's Angels when shown the photo, the blind date was rated less desirable than she was by males watching a different show. The initial impressions of romantic partners, women who were actually available to them and likely to be interested in them, were so adversely affected that the men didn't even want to bother. Think about that. Their attitude was saying, not worth my time. As the head of a public relations agency, I work with beautiful women day and night. You might expect that to make me feel good, as we normally like being around attractive people. But my exposure to extreme beauty is ruining my capacity to love the ordinarily beautiful women of the real world. Women who are more likely to meet my needs for deep connection and partnership of the soul. The strange thing is, being bombarded with visions of beautiful women, or for women, socially powerful men, doesn't make us think our partners are less physically attractive. It doesn't change our perception of our partner. Instead, by some sleight of mind, it distorts our idea of the pool of possibilities. You understand what Levin is saying? Suddenly we think the possibilities now are limitless. I continue. These images make us think there's a huge field of alternatives. It changes our estimate of the number of people who are available to us as potential mates. In changing our sense of the possibilities, it prods us to believe that we could always do better, keeping us continually unsatisfied. The perception of the comparison pool has changed, says Gutierrez. In this context, our partner doesn't look so great, adds Kenrick. You think, yes, my partner's fine, but why do I have to settle for fine when there are just as many great people out there? In the past, humans just didn't see that many people, and certainly not many beautiful people. They lived in a little village of maybe 30, even if you counted distant third cousins. Our ancestors might have been exposed to a grand total of 500 people in their lifetime. Among those 500, some were old, some were young, but very few were very attractive. Today, anyone who turns on the TV or looks at a magazine can easily see 500 beautiful people in an hour, certainly in an evening. My pool includes the people I see in my everyday life, explains Kenrick. I don't consciously think that the people I see through movies, TV, and magazine are artificial. Still, seeing Juliette Binoche all the time registers in my brain. So the women men count as possibilities are not real possibilities for most of them. That leads to a lot of guys sitting at home alone with their fantasies of unobtainable supermodels, stuck in a secret, sorry state that makes them unable to access real love for real women. Or, as Kenrick finds, a lot of guys on college campuses whining, there are no attractive women to date. Under a constant barrage of media images of beautiful women, these guys have an expectation of attractiveness that is unusually high and that makes the real people around them in whom they might really be interested seem lackluster, even if they are really quite good looking. Now that's sobering. It's sobering because we live in an image-infested world. Everywhere we turn, images of beautiful men, of beautiful women, of people who are not only above us ordinary mortals, as they are, but then are finally airbrushed and retouched to a level of perfection that is simply not real. You remember the story John Ortberg tells? Sitting watching the movie with his wife, Sylvester Stallone movie, and whatever the movie was, they were high in the mountains, and he kept, amazingly, getting his shirt ripped off. And when he'd get his shirt ripped off, there he was, ripped. And he said, I'm sitting there watching this, and I realized that my wife is watching this, and I'm noticing that every time he gets his shirt ripped off, she looks at him, and then she kind of looks at me. And I'm watching this. And he says, she finally says to me, you know, I've never really been that attracted to well-built men. And he's like, I know you meant that as a compliment, but I'm having a hard time finding the love in that, you know. And that's the world in which we live. And it is a constant barrage that tells us, do not be satisfied. I thought of the song, the country song, sung by Sarah Evans. Here are some of the words that she croons. When my low self-esteem needs a man loving me and I find me a perfect catch, then I see my friends having wild weekends and I don't want to be quite so attached. Just as soon as I get what I want, I get unsatisfied. Good is good, but could be better. I keep looking. I keep looking. I keep looking for something more. I always wonder why it's on the other side of the number 2 door. I keep looking for something more. That is relationship FOMO. I can't settle for human, for real, for good, for healthy, because there is a fear in me that if I do, just on the other side of that is someone perfect, and I'll miss out. So what do we do? How do we face that? The media barrage is not going to stop. And truth is, when we turn to the pages of this book, we do not find a story, a text, a commandment dealing directly with relationship FOMO. It was a different world. In fact, in that world, you didn't have to worry about relationship FOMO at all because you didn't choose your spouse, your parents did. That's a whole different set of problems. So what do? I want to read you a passage. Doesn't have to do with relationship FOMO. Just doesn't. But it presents us with a virtue that if we are willing to receive, which we are willing to nurture and grow in our lives, is a virtue that will defeat FOMO of many kinds, including this one. It's in Philippians chapter 4. Context is Paul is in prison. He has every reason to be unsatisfied. His life is hard. The prison cell is lonely. His future is uncertain. Life is slipping away. There's every reason for him to be unsatisfied. But then he writes these words. Philippians chapter 4, I start reading with verse 10. It says, I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Him who gives me strength. Paul says to his Philippian friends, I know you were concerned about me, and I was in a desperate condition. However, as much as I appreciate what you sent to me, I did not have to have it. I didn't have to have it to be okay. Why did I not have to have it to be okay? Because I have learned a secret. And that secret is this. I can be content with real life. Sometimes it's in plenty. Sometimes it's in want. Sometimes my stomach's full, sometimes my stomach growls. But in every situation, I can be content. I want to tell you, that moves against the grain of our society and culture in ways that it would take us probably days to sort out. Just take the advertising industry as one example. The entire advertising industry is built on the premise that we can convince you that you are not content, but that if you get this product, you will find contentment. That's the entire premise beneath it all. Convincing us we can't be satisfied with our lives, we can't be content with our circumstances, and even we can't be okay with our partners. Because there's more, there's better, there's bigger, there's more beautiful, there's perfect. That's the whole premise. And along comes Paul, who has the audacity, the temerity, to lay out a simple virtue that destroys it all. It's called contentment. I can be content. Paul, how do you do that? He says, well, part of the learning has been that I've been in all those circumstances. I've treaded water for 36 hours from shipwreck, and I have been in the finest homes of my world. And in every one of those, I finally concluded that whether or not I'm okay in life has far more to do with what's going on in here than it does with what's going on out there. That is the secret of my contentment, that Jesus has invaded my heart and has made me content. So what does that mean for relationship FOMO? How does it affect that? Well, I think there are some things that ought to be stated that probably don't need to be stated. First of all, we have to assume a good relationship, a healthy relationship, two reasonably healthy people, two people who match in a lot of ways, background and hopes and dreams and values and standards, all those kinds of things. A generally good, healthy relationship. But if we assume that and then can't take that step, the next step, what then? What does contentment say to that? I'd like to say two things. Two things to two people. I'd like to speak to a person here this morning who is in a relationship with someone else, and that someone else, that beloved person, is in the grip of FOMO. And you sense it in their tentativeness, their unwillingness to go to the next step, their wandering eye. You can sense that's there. I want to speak to you first. And then secondly, I want to speak to you who are here this morning in the grip of relationship FOMO. You just can't take any further steps for fear you will miss out on something better. So I start with the first one. To you whose love interest is holding back. What do you do? Here's what I think Paul might say. As much as you love him, as much as you cherish her, as much as you hope for a future together, if it doesn't happen, you will be okay. You can learn the secret of contentment. And because of that, my suggestion to you this morning is, if your relationship has reached that point, and that is the one barrier that you're encountering, then it's time to draw a line, to set a boundary, to stand for who you are, and to say, I will not continue to wait. Just wait and wait in hope. I've made a decision. I'm not going to do that. If you can't decide, then my decision is made. Having said that, let me add one other piece to it. Understand that being sexually involved at that level does not help your case. It hurts you immeasurably. Because it says, I'm willing to do anything I can just to keep you. And that hurts you deeply. So maybe today is the day to linger over the words of Paul and to say, Paul spoke about the secret of contentment in any circumstance. Jesus, make that true in my life. As much as I love this person, help me to understand that my ultimate happiness does not depend on him. It is not dependent on her. It is dependent on you and me. What is inside of me? So if that's your life, if that's your loved one's experience, today may be the time to set a boundary. But what if you're the other person? The person who is experiencing FOMO. The person who says, I would like to, but I just get crippled by this fear. What do I do? Well, I might say several things. If you are wrestling with relationship FOMO, then the first thing I would say is do just an inventory of your life. Is your life awash in movies and media? Are you in a fog of entertainment? Is that your life? Does your internet experience include clicking on pornographic websites? Let me tell you, that's not helping you. That's hurting you profoundly. Because there is no human being alive, including the ones in those pictures, who can be all that they appear to be. Simply won't happen. It's not true to life. Furthermore, it is setting the kind of standard that is unattainable and will keep you, as Levin said in his article, perpetually unsatisfied. I'm not against movies. I'm not against TV. I enjoy entertainment. But I'm aware of the sinister messages that come. You want to know the truth? I am less concerned about the bad word here and there or an objectionable moment in a movie. I am less concerned about that than I am the message of the movie. What is it saying? You can have a movie with no bad scenes and no bad language that puts before you a sinister lesson that will have you in a deeper grip of relationship FOMO. So do an inventory. What's happening in my life? What might there be here that is feeding this, that is fueling this? What can lead me to a deeper level of change? And then recognize that, as others have said, happiness comes not in having what you want, but in wanting what you have. That's the biblical reality of the statement Jesus made, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Where you invest, there's where your feelings will follow. I saw a book years ago, didn't buy it, wish I had. One of these days when I have time, I'll find it on Amazon and buy it and read it. But it said something that I thought so many need to hear. The title of the book was How to Stop Looking for Somebody Perfect and Find Somebody to Love. That's the reality. Did you hear the story? The man who was looking for the perfect woman had all kinds of relationship possibilities in front of him, all kinds of good women who would have been interested in a relationship, passed them all by. I have to find the perfect woman. Spent years trying to find her. Finally found the perfect woman. She wouldn't marry him because she was looking for the perfect man. That's relationship FOMO. So what do? We live in a real world. The messages will continue. The images are pervasive. Maybe we just need to come to that realization. The realization of Paul. Whatever the circumstances, life is good or bad, whatever the flaws or failures of this person I have grown to love, the best life is lived in reality, with real, living, human people with foibles just like my own. And that it is in that context that I can learn the deepest lessons of happiness. Because the truth is, so many times, true happiness is right in front of us. Gracious God, we thank you for how you've created us, that you've created us with a yearning for deep, committed love with another human being. And we thank you that you've given us minds and freedoms to choose. Lord, forgive the times when we have been bound, crippled by our fears. Lord, break those chains loose. Let us lead real lives, lives of true contentment, because that's where Jesus would have us be. Thank you and bless us now is my prayer. In His name, amen.
Thank you for watching the Discover channel. This channel's primary focus is to share uplifting and enriching spiritual content with people of all backgrounds of life. These presentations will enhance and develop you intellectually so that you can make informed decisions that will assist you in your day-to-day life. Our goal is to bring hope to the viewers and encourage them. Should you share this vision, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your family and friends so that they too can benefit from this content. We have a Patreon account should you wish to support this channel so that we can produce more of this content. Books and merchandise will also become available as the channel grows. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you at the next one.